Hello and welcome everybody to the Fake Sports League, where it's all statistics and no substance. As always, I'm your host, Kenny Fisher, and we are on to the 9th game of the season. There is only this game and then rivalry week to finish us out. We are barreling quickly towards the postseason here. After this game, it's rivalry week, and then the All-Star game, and then the playoffs, leading us up to the championship weekend. A lot of excitement in the air and in the FSL community. We have a lot of excellent matchups today, and the best of which is the Phantoms versus Knights. The Knights haven't clinched the playoffs yet. They are hoping to clinch the playoffs today. They will get in with a Knights win or a Frogs loss and a Comets loss. Speaking of which, we start things off at Comets Planet, where they take on the ever so daunting Sharks. Between Marcus Evans and Alki, the Sharks have maybe the best offense in the FSL this season, and the Comets will keep that same lineup from last week. First overall pick, Jaden Little will have to watch from the sidelines with the playoff hopes on the line. Sharks miss out on Donnie Earls today, who is sidelined with illness. Parker Saucier to get his first start today. 45 on the clock. And Cornelius Gross gets it out first. Pass it to Parker Saucier, who gets his first point of the day. Cody Cooper ties it up 1-1. 1-2, Marcus Evans is on the board. And Chet Linder gets it right back to the Sharks. But Elvin Noriga gets it back for the Comets. And it's Wiley Little to finish. 2-2, 2-3, Marcus Evans right back at it. And Solbar takes it away, gets it back in the Sharks' possession. There is blood in the water as this Sharks defense is relentless. Cornelius Gross gets one. And Alki is on the board, 2-4, and not a whole lot of time left. Cody Cooper keeps it close for the Comets now, and we're under 10 seconds to play. Ray Sparks on the board. This game is close with 5 seconds left. Can the Comets send this to overtime? No, Alki with 3 points gets the Sharks victory 4-6. Comets not quite out of the playoff discussion quite yet, but they do need their rivals, the Frogs, to lose out the rest of the season for a chance. That means they must win their next week's rivalry matchup. And they got to hope for a Dragons victory today. Speaking of, let's take a look at the pond where the Frogs take on the Dragons. Drew Park and Benny Braun go together like Francesco Sage and Tobias Fonseca. These are two very similar teams from a build standpoint. Records are very different. Dragons have secured a spot, but they are fighting for that first round bye. Frogs got to do everything they can to stay in it. And it will be Drew Park to get the first point on the board for the Frogs. Xavier King ties it up really quick, 1-1. Both teams need a win for their own reasons, and Gary Black takes the lead, but Keith Fraley keeps it quiet, 2-2. Dragons tied up. No turnout except for DeAndre Boyd, who gets a turnover here. 2-2 and 2-3. Keith Fraley scores yet again. 20 seconds on the clock. 2-3. Very close game from these two. And Tobias Fonseca takes it away, gets it out to Keith Fraley, who gets the largest lead of the night. But Drew Park keeps it close yet again, 3-4. Time running out. Can the Frogs tie it up for overtime? Can the Dragons shut the door? It will finish right there at 3-4. Dragons with the victory, and the Comets have a playoff chance still. 3 points for Keith Fraley today, and the Dragons are going to be one of the toughest teams to face in the playoffs. Join me now at the Tower where the Mystics take on the Tide. This is a very highly anticipated game. Not necessarily because we think it's going to be close. The Tide have been eliminated and they have not won a game yet. But former Tide players Max Peterson as well as Stefan Fitzsimmons will face off against their former team after getting traded earlier in the season. Doug Powers on offense is to pick up from Tide. Let's see if we might see a little extra passion out of some of these players. Right away, Percy Willis scores for the Mystics, and it will be Stefan Fitzsimmons to get it right back to him. Right out to Carlos Gutierrez, who scores on that play. 2-0, 3-0 now. Percy Willis put in the beat down on Tide. They have not gotten any stats yet in this game, and it will be Rogelio Gil to break the silence. Scoreless between Doug Powers and Max Peterson, the two offensive players involved in the trade, and Percy Willis puts another one up on the board. Doug Powers now gets his first. It's 4-2 with 15 seconds remaining. Do the Tide have any fight left in them? It looks like maybe not. Carlos Gutierrez with another point, and this is kind of getting out of hand. Max Peterson remains scoreless across from Doug Powers, 2 points for their team, and time will run out. Not a whole lot to play for from this Tide team. They are eliminated from the playoffs, but if it's any consolation, Doug Powers scored 2 in this game against Max Peterson 0, and they will have their rivalry match next game with a chance to keep their rivals out of that first round bye. The Tide might not be able to get into the playoffs this season, but they can force an extra game on their rivals, making it just that much harder to get to the championship. How about 4 points from Percy Willis today in the 6-3 victory for the Mystics? It is time now for the game of the week, the Phantoms versus the Knights. Both teams now have clinched the playoffs, but the Phantoms are still fighting for that first round bye at home. Good to see Lee Cho back in the lineup, joining the league leader in points, Quinn McHugh, and this Knights offense is back to full strength up against the #1 defense in the FSL. Let's see it. Octavio Bren right out the gate, 1-1. Quinn McHugh scores for the Knights, but Courtney May right there at him. Lee Cho gets into the mix, 2-2, 3-2 now. Chase Dubose on the board, and Courtney May gets his second, the largest lead of the night, cut short by Lee Cho, and Junior Mosley gets it right back to the Knights. Can they tie it up? Jared Kelly takes it right back for the Phantoms, and we are tied up. 4-4, Quinn McHugh gets it, but Chase Dubose 5-4 now, time running out. 6-4, Courtney May gets another one, but Quinn McHugh with his third. Quinn McHugh has been fantastic this season, but the Phantoms just are relentless on offense this time around. 7-5 and 7-6, time runs out on the Knights. Very reminiscent of the game of the week last week, where the Knights fell to the Sharks in similar fashion, 7-5 that game. But once again, Quinn McHugh puts up 4 points with the Knights' loss. I'm just never seen someone put up that many points that consistently. I don't think anybody realizes how major Quinn McHugh has been this season. I wonder if Lee Cho can kind of shore things up. I mean, they're putting up good points week in and week out. Maybe they can use a little bit of help on defense. But 7 points for the Phantoms at home, and an even split between their full roster. Phantoms feeling really confident about their whole team going into the playoffs. Let's take a look at those standings. It will come down to rivalry week to see who gets that first round bye between the Phantoms, Dragons, and Sharks. If all three beat their rivals, then it will come down to margin of victory to determine the order. The last piece of this playoff puzzle comes between the Frogs and the Comets. If the Frogs win in rivalry week, they are into the playoffs. If the Comets win, it will come down to margin of victory. And I'm just hearing now that we ran it by our stats team, it looks like the Comets will have to beat the Frogs by a margin of 10 points to secure that playoff spot. Kind of unlikely here. They're giving the Frogs a 98.6% chance of clutching the playoffs next week, but it's never out of the question. In other news, the Tide have secured the #1 overall pick in the next draft, and if you're interested in seeing the draft class, make sure you tune into the FSL Discord, link in the description below. Next week is rivalry week and a lot of questions left unanswered. Don't forget to talk a little trash to your rivals in the comments below. Alright, that's it from me today in the booth. Hope you all have a great night and you all get home safe. Thanks for watching this official broadcast by the Fake Sports League.